What's going on, guys? It's me, Zach, again, bringing you guys another fantasy football video. In this one, I'm going to go over 5 running backs that I've identified as potential breakout candidates this season. I think all of them are poised to have the best seasons of their career, which has sort of been the definition I'm using of a breakout as somebody who exceeds anything they've done prior in their career. I recently came out with a video on 3 potential quarterback candidates for having breakout seasons. That video came out on Wednesday. You by no means need to watch that video for this video to make sense, so feel free to watch this video and then the receiver and tight end one when they come out in any order that you like, but I certainly do recommend that you at least take a look at all of them if you'd like to. And if you like any of the videos, get anything out of them, please feel free to drop a like. If there are any players that you think that are breakout candidates that I don't mention, please feel free to bring them up in the comments section, or if you happen to disagree with me, please let me know. I love having conversations about this stuff. I love that we're at the point in the season where we can all have extremely different opinions, and they all have some sort of reason that makes sense. And that's what makes fantasy football fun, is you don't really know. But yeah, so with that, I'm going to get started going into the running backs. So let's get into the first one. So the first running back that I'm super excited about this season is Travis Etienne. Obviously, he came into the NFL as a first-round draft pick, albeit one that I personally, and I think many others, disagreed with, given that they already had James Robinson on the roster, and obviously, if you're the Jaguars, you probably had a lot more holes to fill. But that being said, Etienne lost his rookie season due to a Liz Frank injury in his foot that kept him out of the whole season. But even with that, James Robinson, his running back mate, tore his Achilles in Week 16 of the 2021 NFL season, and it's seeming increasingly unlikely that he's going to be ready to go in Week 1, and even if he is, there really aren't prior examples of running backs tearing their Achilles and coming back to full form. We're going to get a lot more information on how well players can come back from that injury this season, with James Robinson and Marlon Mack sort of serving as good examples, but sort of until we see it, I think it's pretty safe to say that we're never going to see James Robinson at full strength again, and that's really sad, actually, because James Robinson was really off to a strong start to his career. But I think it's certainly safe to say that this backfield is Etienne's. His injury is long gone. It happened in the preseason before last season, so he's more than healthy at this point in time, and him and Lawrence already have a report developed from their days playing at Clemson, so there's really no reason to believe that there should be too much catching up for Etienne to do within that offense. In addition, the Jaguars rank 6th in terms of their strength of schedule. That means that next season they face opponents that on average give up the 6th most points to running backs during the 2021 season. So if I refer to the strength of schedule metric, that's what I'm talking about. In addition to that, the Jaguars in Week 16 and 17 get to face the Jets and the Texans. Obviously, it's generally probably ill-advised to pick and choose matchups, especially this early in the season, because it's really hard to tell year to year how good teams are going to be. But I think we can pretty confidently say that the Jets and Texans are going to be pretty bad this season, and certainly going to be below average in terms of run defense and win percentage. So those are games that the Jaguars certainly I would expect to win, and that gives Etienne a chance to really boom in the playoffs. In addition, Trevor Lawrence led the NFL in dump down rate / check down rate last season. He checked the ball down to the running back position 11.3% of the time of dropbacks. No other quarterback broke that metric, broke 10% of that metric. So Etienne, who was already a pass catching specialist, is going to see plenty of targets in that offense. And that offense is likely going to be playing from behind. They've got a pretty subpar defense and an overall not very talented roster. So they're going to be playing from behind in a lot of games. I think you're going to have a lot of times where Etienne will get 3 to 4 receptions in the fourth quarter alone of garbage time, and he's really going to put up a lot of numbers. Garbage time points, they count the same in fantasy. Doesn't matter when they score them in the game, so I think Etienne's certainly a guy that could put together a really quiet, really strong, low-end running back 1 season. And he's being drafted as the running back 22, so you're drafting him to be a low-end running back 2. Even better if you can get Etienne as your 3rd running back. You're really set there, because I think there's a lot of upside with Etienne, and he's being drafted behind guys like Josh Jacobs, who I think has a really low ceiling, Cam Akers, who certainly could be worth nothing, and Antonio Gibson, who himself has a pretty low floor. So I think that I would personally take Etienne above all 3 of those guys, and he's going behind them. So to me, Etienne is certainly a steal at his draft position of RB22, and there's a more than realistic chance that Travis Etienne breaks out the season and ends up in the top 15 of the position. The next running back I'm super excited about this season is Myles Sanders. I know he's a player that's burned a lot of fantasy players in the past, and I think that that's certainly playing into the fact that he's being drafted so low. But I think that that's something that we as fantasy players can't get emotional about. Obviously, he has certainly underperformed in the past, but that's not indicative of how he's going to perform in the future. Especially given that last season, Myles Sanders averaged over 5 yards per carry. He's extremely efficient when he does get the ball. And he just happened to not score any rushing touchdowns, which is beyond fluky. Boston Scott, his backup, had 7 rushing touchdowns last season. So it's more than reasonable to expect Myles Sanders to experience positive touchdown regression. I'm not saying Myles Sanders is going to run for more than 10 rushing touchdowns this season, but I think it's very reasonable to assume he's going to finish in that 5 to 8 rushing touchdown range and maybe add 1 or 2 through the air. Philadelphia became one of the run-heaviest teams in the NFL last season. They finished only second to the Tennessee Titans in team rushing attempts per game. So that means that Sanders is going to be the feature running back in a backfield that's going to get handed the ball a lot. The Eagles' offense is going to run through running the ball with Sanders and then running the ball with Jalen Hurts and then trying to create big explosive plays through play action. In addition, contrary to popular belief, the Eagles do indeed target the running back position at a pretty high rate. I think that a lot of people just picture Jalen Hurts as a rushing quarterback, and that means that in general, rushing quarterbacks don't target the running back position. It is true that Jalen Hurts doesn't check the ball down. I mentioned that stat with Trevor Lawrence previously. But he does target the running back position, good for a 23% target share last year. That finished 7th in the NFL, so I think that it's pretty safe to say that Sanders is going to get a lot of carries, and he's going to get enough looks through the air. Obviously, people are really high on Kenneth Gainwell and what he did last year, but I think you're only going to see Gainwell in 2-minute situations and 3rd and longs. And other than that, I think you're going to see a lot of Myles Sanders this season. So if he can stay healthy, he's going to absolutely smash his ADP of RB30. And the beauty of him being drafted at RB30 is you're drafting him as your 3rd running back. So if he does burn you again this year, it doesn't really matter because you weren't necessarily drafting him to be a staple in your starting lineup every week, and he certainly has the upside to finish as a low-end RB1. I'm not going to say that he can finish the top 5 running back, but he certainly has it within the range of possibilities that he could finish within the RB10 to 15 range, and that'd be an absolute steal at his current ADP. So moving into some of the running backs that you can get much later in drafts, the first running back that I really think is going to have a chance to have a breakout year this season is Chase Edmonds. He's by far the highest paid running back in Miami. He was their first major signing during free agency, so it was really clear that the Dolphins wanted to get him on the roster. He's always been an elite pass catcher, which means he's going to be really efficient with the touches that he gets because, as we all know, most of us play in either half PPR or full PPR formats, and that means that touches that come as receptions are far more valuable than rushes. So even if he only gets 15 touches a game, if that's 5 receptions and 10 rushes, he's going to end up with a really nice floor. His competition in Miami is extremely meh, for lack of a better word. Not to mention they're injury prone. The Dolphins also brought in Raheem Mostert from the 49ers to be their sort of, I guess you could argue he's there to be their first and second down running back, but we all know he's extremely injury prone. He didn't make it out of the first week last season, and I think it's really tough to assume that Mostert's going to be there for many games this year. Not to mention, I don't think it's unrealistic to say that Chase Edmonds is just a better running back as well. The Dolphins also brought in Sony Michel, but he doesn't really fit the mold of a running back that McDaniels is going to want to use. He's certainly not fast. That's generally the main criteria for that offense that they're going to run there. So I expect Chase Edmonds to be their lead back in Miami this season, and I think that Tyreek and Waddle are really going to help open up the middle of the field. When you have Tyreek running deep and Waddle running pretty deep as well, there's going to be a lot of space underneath for Edmonds to operate and get a lot of checkdowns from Tua. Not to mention Tua himself is known for not having a very strong arm, so I think he's going to have to look to check the ball down pretty often. On top of that, Miami ranked 8th in pass attempts per game last season, meaning they do actually throw the ball at a pretty high rate. And as you know, more passing attempts means more opportunities for targets for Edmonds, and there's no reason to expect them to throw the ball any less this season. All they've done is bring in a better pass-catching running back in Edmonds, and then bring in arguably the best receiver in the NFL in Tyreek Hill. So it's certainly reasonable to assume that the Dolphins are going to continue to pass the ball in the top 10 this season. And Chase Edmonds is being drafted as the RB34 in PPR formats, which just does not make sense to me. He's the starting running back on an NFL team. There are only 32 NFL teams, so it seems unrealistic to say he's anywhere below RB34. Not to mention the Dolphins are actually going to be a pretty good offense this year. So if Chase Edmonds can stay healthy, he's going to be extremely valuable. And even if you only get him for 10 weeks this season, he's going to be startable in every single one of them. And you're getting him really late. And you're drafting him as your RB3 or 4. And if you can get him there, you're just absolutely set at the position. Going a little bit even deeper into the draft boards, this player I'm really excited about is Ramanian Stevens. I think it's pretty safe to say that he's the most talented all-around running back on the New England Patriots roster. Amian Harris is maybe a better runner, but he certainly can't catch the ball. And James White is maybe a better pass catcher, but he's certainly not as talented of a rusher. So I think Ramanian Stevenson gives them the most versatility out of the backfield. And James White himself might not even be healthy to start the season. Who knows when James White / even if James White's going to come back this season. So there's a legitimate chance that Ramanian Stevenson finds himself in that third down role, which we've known for years to be pretty useful and at least usable in a flex standard format. Not standard, in PPR formats. And that means that Ramanian Stevenson finds himself sort of along the likes of Tony Pollard and A.J. Dillon and Kareem Hunt in terms of being a running back that I think you can flex because of the they're going to get enough touches in an offense that's going to score enough points that you can play them week to week. And then in a scenario where Amian Harris were to go down, Ramanian Stevenson would be arguably a low-end running back 1. The New England Patriots love to establish the run, and Mac Jones certainly loved throwing the ball to the running back position last season. So if Ramanian Stevenson were ever to get a full workload, he certainly showed himself last year to be more than capable of handling that workload, and he was really effective at getting yards after contact and making plays in the open field. So I think it's pretty reasonable to say that if given the opportunity, Ramanian Stevenson is going to absolutely explode. And on top of that, the Patriots have the 4th easiest strength of schedule for the running back position, so there will be plenty of opportunities for this backfield to put up a lot of fantasy points on a week-to-week basis. And there's no reason for me to think that he's not going to pay off in those weeks. You're getting him super late. You're drafting him as the RB34. That's around guys like Michael Carter, James Robinson, James Cook, Alexander Madison. And all of those guys need an injury ahead of them for them to be even worth considering throwing into your starting lineup. And I think Ramanian Stevenson is going to be more than usable in the flex spot this season. And if something were to happen to Amian Harris, you might have yourself an RB1 for the remainder of the season. And that's sort of the kind of running back that you're looking to draft this late. A guy that's not just going to burn a hole on your roster. Drafting a guy like Alexander Madison, you're just going to hold him all season, and you're going to play him on the games that Dalvin Cook misses, and otherwise you're going to feel stuck with Madison, as to where Ramanian Stevenson at least gives you options on a week-to-week basis. And then if you do have that injury occur, then you're set. You've got an elite running back that you got super late. So that's sort of why I like Ramanian Stevenson this year. I think he's going to be a really popular pick late in drafts, and I do expect to see his ADP rise. But I think that even getting up into the RB30 range, I think he's more than worth considering. Obviously, I would still take guys like Myles Sanders over Stevenson, but once you get out of the running backs that aren't for sure starters, I think he and Kareem Hunt and guys like that are pretty much even for me. And last but certainly not least is A.J. Dillon for me. He's an extremely talented runner. We've all seen that. And I think he's a far better receiver than people give him credit for. He caught the ball on 92% of his targets last season, which is an incredibly high percentage. And not all of those were just gimme dump downs. He really did make some plays with his hands, and I don't think that's something that a lot of people give him enough credit for. I also think that we're likely to see plenty of sets in Green Bay this season where both running backs are on the field. I wouldn't be shocked to see a little bit of I formation in Green Bay, or scenarios they move Aaron Jones out to the slot so that they can have both of those players on the field, because I think it's pretty safe to say that those are their 2 best playmakers on offense with the departure of Devontae Adams. We all know that Aaron Rodgers has a history of not targeting players he doesn't trust. I think it's going to be really hard to see many of the targets from Scantling or Adams go to the incoming rookie of Christian Watson. So I think you're going to see a lot of dump downs go to A.J. Dillon and Aaron Jones, and I think you're going to see Allen Lazard involved, and I think that's going to be how they move the offense. So I think that A.J. Dillon is going to be more than usable, even in weeks where Aaron Jones plays. I think he's actually usable as a low-end RB2, not even just a flex. And I think that in games where Aaron Jones misses, which he has a history of missing a few games each year, he's just a smash RB1. The offense in Green Bay isn't going to be able to do much that in terms of moving the ball without getting the ball in the hands of Dillon or Jones. And Aaron Rodgers is their quarterback, so we all know they're going to be able to put up points. That means that those points are going to have to come from Dillon and Jones. And then A.J. Dillon's being drafted as the RB25 this season. To me, that doesn't make sense. You're getting him as your running back 3, maybe even your running back 4 if you loaded up on running back early. And that's just an absolute steal for me. I think that if you can have Dillon as your 3rd running back, you've really got some elite upside at the position, and you're actually going to be pretty safe with the floor he offers. And I expect Dillon to be their goal line back this season as well. He's going to fall in the end zone maybe 10 times this season. I think that it really could be a season where both him and Aaron Jones combined for 20 total touchdowns and 2,500 total yards. So really, I love both backs in Green Bay. I just think that A.J. Dillon is the better value of the two because of how much later he's going in drafts. Thank you guys for watching. If you haven't already, please be sure to subscribe to the channel, like the video, check out these other videos here if you haven't. If you want more content, please feel free to follow me on Twitter @RealSteelFFB. I'll be more active on there as the season goes on. Thanks. Catch you later.